Hello, and welcome back to My Artist Friend, the podcast about the artist behind the art. My name is Becky Helms. I'm your host and your artist friend today. I was going to wait until next week to do this, but I got too excited about it. So we're doing Snart. Snart for June is going to be really exciting for me. If you are doing this with kids, which literally no one has given me any feedback except for a friend of mine that does this. I appreciate her for letting me know. If you are doing this with your kids, it's definitely for older kids. We are going to be doing embroidery this month. So if you remember way back when, in another life of mine, I had a blog and I did a DIY blog. And I had, I would put these up in my Etsy shop, but I would do a lot of embroidery. I would share free patterns. I would sell patterns. I would show, how to do certain stitches and lots of projects. Love embroidery. It's one of my favorite crafts. Okay. So I'm very excited to do this. You can do it with kids, but they just need to be okay using a pointy needle and keeping track of thread. It might be a little bit more hands-on, but there are other ways that you can incorporate your kids into embroidery projects, and I will talk about that later when we get to the project section. But if you're new here, Snart is snack plus art. You grab a snack and then you do some art. It's amazing. It's my favorite thing. We pick a different theme every month, and last month was printmaking. This month is embroidery, and I'm very excited about it. So the way these episodes are structured, I will talk about artists that you can use for inspiration, people that you can follow on social media or buy from their shops. I will share some books that you can get either from the library, from thrift books. In the links down below, I have affiliate links to bookshop.org because, in this economy, we do what we can. All right. But you can get them anywhere. I know a friend of mine that does this. She will grab some really cool stuff from the library, and sometimes it takes a while. So we're always flexible with Snart. Okay. Sometimes I don't even do any projects for the month, but it's the intention. But also, after we talk about books, we will talk about some activities that you can do with your kids, with your community. And then we will talk about projects. And I have 10 really fun projects. And as Snart has evolved this year, I feel like I find more and more links. So if you go to the show notes in Substack, you will have all of the links to the artists, to the books, to the activities, to the projects. Everything is there. And that way you don't have to go traipsing all over the internet looking for things. I've got it all in one spot for you because I love you and you're my friend. Okay, let's get into it. All right, the first artist I want to talk about is my friend Molly Johansson. I mentioned her in my newsletter last week. She's got an amazing shop with so many different projects and patterns and all kinds of stuff. And her blog is extensive with embroidery information and patterns. She's got it together. All right. So you can check out her blog, you can check out her shop and her Instagram. She's just an amazing follow. If you're interested in embroidery at all and you love cute things, there is truly no better place to be. Another one of my friends is Rachel of Poppy and Fern, and she does she doesn't do kits or patterns or anything. This is all just her own art that she sells, but her florals and her jewelry, she has these teeny tiny mini frames, and the amount of detail that she can get in like one stitch boggles my mind. So I have a link to her shop and her Instagram. She is just incredible. It's so funny. There was one time that she and my friend Lauren of the Burlap Bag, we all went up to Dallas to go to the new Daiso that opened up there. We took a day trip. I was like super pregnant. Rachel's stitching in the back because she brought all of her supplies. She had a big drop she was working towards, and we all just trucked it up to Dallas to go to Daiso and back in a day. What was that, like 3 hours each way? We also stopped at a Becky's, which was very exciting to me too, and necessary. Anyway, that was a good trip. I love you, Rachel. All right, next, I was doing a little Googling around, just trying to see who was out there. And I found the Wonder Makers Collective. It's these two friends who send projects back and forth to each other to finish, which I think is really cool. Like one of them will work on a bit, send it to a friend, she'd work on a bit, send it back, and work on it for who knows how long. They have these like embroidered sequin disco balls. Like it's so cool. So I have their website down below. They don't really have a shop. I think they sell like one-off art pieces. It's like fine art kind of stuff. I mean, these projects take forever, but man, they're so cool. I just thought it was a really awesome idea. All right, next, I must have been living under a rock, okay? Because I had not heard of Yumiko Higuchi, and this woman has so many books. Her Instagram is wild. Like she has, hundreds of thousands of followers. And I mean, rightfully so. Her work is gorgeous. And I was just blown away. I have a couple of her books. We'll talk about them. But like they're absolutely gorgeous. I just can't. Her website and Instagram are down below. It was just an instant follow. Okay, so I can't mention embroidery without mentioning Jenny Hart. She was one of the founding members of the Austin Craft Mafia, along with my good friend Jennifer Perkins, who I mention in every episode. Hey, Jen. Jenny Hart runs a company called Sublime Stitching, and if you have even dipped your toe into the embroidery world at all, you will know Sublime Stitching. She has kits, she has licensing deals with artists, she has like supplies. I've bought her floss and all kinds of stuff. Like I have so many of her patterns. She's absolutely incredible. She also does fine art pieces. And when I used to live and work in Washington, D.C., she had a gallery showing and it was right down the street from my office. And I was like, you know what? I can't not be there. And it was like the opening show and all the artists were there talking about their work. And I got to meet her, which was very exciting. It was her dolly piece, I believe. If you go, I've got her, obviously I have her website. She also has a ton of tutorials, which I've linked below too. But her website is one-stop shop for all embroidery, anything you need. Her style is amazing. Love her, but it's very exciting to meet her and be a part of that gallery showing. And I'll have to find that picture. I might have put it on Instagram, but that was like 2012 Instagram. So I'm sure it was very sepia toned. But anyway, Jenny Hart's incredible. Absolutely check her out. I can't mention embroidery also without mentioning sashiko. Sashiko is a style of embroidery in Japan, and it uses different patterns. There are templates that you can use. You can do this in quilting. I've done a sashiko top stitch on a quilt that I've made before, which is so cool. And there's a lot you can do with it. There's also a lot you can do with mending with it. I found this shop in Kyoto and they do tutorials and their website is pretty robust and they have a very cool Instagram as well. So Sashiko Lab in Kyoto, I've got links to them below. They're fantastic. Okay, now let's move on to the books. So as I mentioned before, Yumiko Higuchi, she has so many different books, but the ones that really stood out to me for folks, if you are just starting out, are Embroidery in Everyday Life. And those have lots of patterns for just little everyday objects that you would see in your life. And I thought that was really cool. And she's also got Embroidered Botanicals, which I linked below. But if you want to have a good time looking, just Google her name and books. She's got so many good ones. Now, there's also The Art of Embroidery Design, a workshop for developing your own original stitching by Christy Johnson. That one looked like a good one-stop shop for all kinds of stuff, especially if you're going to be exploring your own style. So you can follow patterns all day long. But if you want to branch out and really put your own personality into the work, this might be a good book for you. I also came across a book called Paint with Thread by Emily Ferris, and I've linked her Instagram too. Her work, now this is next level, y'all. This book and her work are absolutely gorgeous. The detail that she gets is just wild to me. The people that can make things look 3D and show all kinds of texture, and she does a lot of wildlife, butterflies, bees, things like that. If you want to really get into it, I think this would be a fun book for you. Now, you can't talk about embroidery without getting any kind of book that's got a stitch library. So I found the Embroidery Stitch Bible by Betty Barnden, and I've linked that one, but there are lots of them. I would recommend getting a book that just has as many stitches as possible. There are a few that are basics that you will use for everything, but getting a stitch Bible is really cool because then you can kind of branch out. There are so many different stitches. They can get so detailed, so specific. But I think it's good to have a reference around. And then the last one, speaking of sashiko, is Simply Sashiko by Nihon Vogue. It's Japanese Vogue. And they have a book that's basically a library and templates of sashiko patterns. So I think that's a good way to go. Now it's time to move on to activities. These are things you can do with other people, things you can do with your friend, things you can get out of the house and engage with the broader community with. Grammar's hard. Anyway, number 1, visit a museum or check out online exhibitions. So I've linked a handful. There is the Detroit Institute of Art has a very cool exhibit called Painted with Silk, The Art of Early American Embroidery. And they have an online collection that you can look at. I love that they have the online kind of galleries that we can look at because sometimes it's hard to make it to exhibits. There's also, I have a link to the Embroiderers Guild of America. They have a list of upcoming shows across the country. So definitely check that out, see if there's something near you. And I discovered, and this is probably not news to anyone else, but you can search the Met and you can search through their online gallery and see things that are either like specifically on display. You can search for keywords. You can really get in there. And so I just searched for embroidery and things that are on display at the Met because we're hoping to go to New York sometime this summer. And I've never been to the Met before. So I would love to see some of the embroidery and different kinds of crafts. But I put a link to my search criteria for the Met collection for embroidery. And there are lots of really great things. Some things are like fancy, opulent chairs from, 1700s, whatever. But they also have some really cool samplers from the 1800s in the US, which I think are gorgeous. When you look at these samplers, and this is the kind of thing like girls are taught to sit and stitch, very Felicity, American Girl dolls. But the detail that they get, and these girls weren't working off of patterns. Like you just had to do all of the spacing and the artwork yourself and make sure everything was even and it's so beautiful. Anyway, check out the Met for some fun embroidery things. Another thing you can do is get together with your friends and have a stitch along. There is a group called Stitch and Bee. I don't want to get the E, and YouTube will get mad if I say the word. But rhymes with Stitch and Bee. And they have this really cool, it's been around for years, but they have this great kind of directory and where you can get together and meet up with people for all kinds of fiber arts. They will meet up at baseball games, they'll meet up just wherever, at movies, and you just bring a project and work together and just kind of stitch in community, whether it's knitting or crocheting or embroidering, anything you can bring and stitch. Oh, it's a cool way to get together with other people and maybe do a little bit of networking and meet some new folks. And again, we're rounding out this category with sashiko. So you could have a mending party with your friends, have them bring over, jeans that have a hole in them or a shirt that needs a little patch done, and you can get together and grab some sashiko templates, or you can just embroider on regular fabric and turn it into patches. I have links to projects like that. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I think it'd be fun to bring a bunch of clothes that you can mend and even trade with folks. And, you can mend your friend's jeans and then she can have a little piece of you walking around. And I think that would be really fun. I'm all about the mending, which leads me directly into the project ideas, because my first project idea is visible mending. So this is a way to turn a hole or a snag or a tear or something like that into a design, into an original piece of art on your clothing. So I am all about mending right now. I had some sheets that had some rips in them that I just sewed up, but the idea of visible mending I think is really cool because you can turn your clothes into a work of art. It's pretty easy. I have some links to, one is just kind of an intro to visible mending blog post, which I think was really helpful. And then a couple of different Instagram accounts if you want to follow some folks who specifically do mending and talk about visible mending. So you can get lots of different ideas from them. All right, the second project would be to do a stitch sampler. So this is really great for beginners. You can take a hoop and just do lots of different types of stitches. And that way you get practice doing the stitches, and you can even label them if you want to and have them as a reference for yourself. And it's just really good practice. So I have a couple of YouTube videos that they're long, but they're good. They're comprehensive. And they have lots of great ideas for how to do it. And one of the ladies has a really interesting take on how to do a sampler, and her stuff is very interesting, using vintage fabric and sewing things together and making it more of an art piece than just a reference sampler. But I thought it was really cool. And I also have a link to a blog post that has kind of samples of how to do a hoop with different types of stitches. So, stitch sampler. It can be as easy or as detailed as you want. There's no limit to embroidery. All right, another kind of idea that you can do with a hoop is either do like one letter, like an illuminated initial, or you can do names and make a really fun art piece if you like calligraphy, or if you find a font that you really like. I have a post down below that's got a lot of hand embroidered lettering and text ideas. So hopefully that will be helpful for a lot of different things. But I like the idea of doing just a little name or a little letter, because you can do different hoops with the letters of all the people in your family. It's a great baby gift. It's very good for gifting. And don't forget, if you get teeny tiny hoops, they don't even have to be teeny tiny. They can be 2 to 3 inches. And those you can just tie a ribbon around. And that is an amazing Christmas ornament. Just throwing that out there too. All right, number 4 is making decorative patches. So you can do this using felt or using fabric. You can add interfacing if you want to stabilize the fabric even more. But I have a couple of different links to different types of patches that you can make. And I think that's really fun. You could use that for visible mending, or you could use it as just decorative things on, like elbows of a shirt, or put it on a bag, or stick it on your purse. Or you can make it super thick and put a little grommet in it, hang it off your bag, hang it off your keychain, something like that. So making decorative patches, I think, can be very versatile. Okay, number 5, I think, is a really fun idea that I've seen in the last couple of years, and that's doing an embroidery journal. So what folks do, and I have links to an Instagram post with someone explaining it, and then a really great blog post that has like every step. But an embroidery journal is basically, you take a round hoop and then you divide it into the 12 months, and then you embroider one tiny little icon for each day of the month. So you kind of fill up the month with little pictograms of your day. I think that's so fun. I think it's cool. So you can see the different kind of objects or feelings or weather or, clothing items all kinds of stuff. You can do anything. So I think that's a really interesting idea. And that could be a fun project to do. You could do the 100 Days project with that in a kind of mini way, or you can start in January and go from there, or you could do the year before and, maybe not necessarily think about every single day of the year, but you could think about, general feelings and activities and things that you did during that month. So I thought it was fun. All right, number 6 is embroidered quilt blocks. I think this is so fun. My aunt actually made me a quilt a long time ago, and she used my cat embroidery patterns for the middle of the blocks that she made, and I adore that quilt so much. Okay, I just grabbed it because I have to show you. So if you're watching on YouTube, you'll be able to see this, and then I'll see if I can try and take pictures and add it to the Substack post if you don't watch it on YouTube. But I just want to show you, these are little embroideries that I had up on my blog for free for people to use. So you can tell it's my my style of cat, and had cat lady lettering, and then my little round tubby cat. And then this one, she did a really cool, she filled in the yarn ball for this one. So it's a little cat wrapped around a ball of yarn. She also embroidered a little broccoli in white, so it's like hidden. It's a whole thing. I hated broccoli as a kid. I hate it now. I don't mind saying. No florets are allowed in my house. Anyway, so you can embroider your own. You can also find vintage embroidery if you see something that looks fun in like a tea towel or another quilt block from a different quilt, and you want to upcycle that in some kind of way. You can do that. And you can also do your original work on like hexies. If you're going to do like a paper piecing sort of quilt, that would be really great. Molly Johansson has lots of really great motifs for that. That's a really fun idea. And you can do as many as you want or as few as you want. Again, the sky's the limit. I think there are a lot of really fun things you can do with embroidery and quilts if you are so inclined. You can also do, just like you were doing the names or the letters, you can do quotes as decor. So I have a couple of posts for inspiration for that. There's one post that's specifically about best embroidery stitches for lettering. So that's really helpful. There's also just like a fun inspiration post for you. If you've got stuff that y'all say in your house all the time, you can do that. If you have quotes from movies, from books, you know how quotes work. Why am I explaining this? Anyway, put some quotes on your wall. It's really great decor and it's a really great gift. I mentioned tea towels before and like a cut up vintage ones and use them in a quilt, but you can also embroider tea towels yourself. So this was driving me crazy because my old blog had so many different embroidery projects, and I'm going to have to just go through the Wayback Machine and put the stuff over on my Substack because I had so many different patterns and so many different projects. And I specifically had a Doctor Who TARDIS tea towel that I did that I absolutely love. We still have it. And it looks fantastic. I moved it from regular use because I didn't want it to get dirty. I'm so proud of it. But I have a couple of links for tea towel ideas. Again, a great gift, easy to stitch. You could go full on 90s and do little geese with blue bows and little straw hats, You could do fruits and veggies. You could do bread. You could do ones that just have butter on them, lots of little foodie things, or utensils, or seasonal stuff and holiday things. And again, there's so many things you can do with embroidery. It's just like drawing. You're just drawing on stuff with thread. Now, if you want to bring your kids into the mix, I think it would be really fun to embroider your kids' drawings. So if they're too young to work with the needle and thread, you can have them do a drawing and then you can transfer it over and recreate that with the needle and thread. And then you can hang it up in their room. And I think that would be really fun. You can also, I don't have a link to this because I saw a picture and my brain went crazy and I can't find anyone who's done it. But you can you can do some embroidery, whatever design you want to do, and then maybe get a fabric pen, and then your kid can color it in. So you could even do it with white or black or whatever color thread you want to do, because the marker will affect the thread as well. So that could be a cool effect if you think about it. But I think that would be a fun project as well, letting your kid use fabric paint or fabric markers to color in embroidery that you make. Especially, how cute would it be if you did their name and then they colored it in and then you hung it up in their room? I think that would be sweet. All right, and the last idea that I think could work for adults and you could modify it for kids is this is number 10, last one, is to embroider on a canvas. So I have a link below to someone who painted on their canvas and then they embroidered over top of it. Such a cool idea. Again, sky's the limit with that. There is so much you can do with that idea of mixed media. And if you are doing this with kids, if you go get a canvas and maybe poke the holes ahead of time, give your kids some yarn, then it might be a little bit easier for them to stitch the design. So I think that could be cool to do. So enjoy a little mixed media time. You can paint on it, draw on it, do whatever you want, and then stitch over top. I think it'd be cool. Okay, so that is Snart for June 2025. June starts next Sunday. So now you've got a week to kind of gather your supplies. Embroidery supplies aren't too expensive. Floss isn't too expensive, especially because I like to split it. Unless I'm doing a really thick line for something, I like to split it in half. It usually comes in 6 strands, so I'll do 3 and 3. So then the thread goes a little bit longer. But you'll see in the tutorial, there are lots of great folks on YouTube. Obviously, YouTube University is the way to go for crafting. But Jenny Hart has a lot of great stuff. Molly Johansson has a lot of great stuff. And any of the books that you pick up will tell you all the fun tips and tricks for making embroidery fun. But a lot of the stuff, you'll keep your needles forever. You'll keep your hoops forever, unless you use them for decor. And everything is pretty inexpensive when it comes to the supplies. And you can thrift all kinds of stuff. Look for cotton shirts with patterns that you really like, or solid cotton shirts. You can look for old vintage sheets are a really great thing to use. You can use all kinds of stuff. So if you are working with a budget, it is absolutely thriftable as well. So I hope that's as exciting for you as it is for me. I think embroidery makes a really good instant gratification kind of craft, which I am developing a list of my instant gratification crafts so I can sit down, do something in one sitting and have a completed project, because you can make embroidery as simple or as complex as you'd like. It's an amazing medium. I think it's so fun. So if you participate, if you do anything next month, or if you did any printmaking last month, please, please, please let me know. I would love to know. These episodes get the most downloads, so I think they're exciting to you, but I don't know that anyone's actually doing any of the projects. So if you do any projects, please tag me on Instagram. Let me know. I would love to see what you make. And hopefully I will have a few projects. I'll probably try and put some of the old projects and templates up on my Substack so you can have some templates to go from there. And yeah. Okay. I think that's it. I'm done rambling. All right. Have fun. And I will see you next time. Bye.